The revelation came on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Dr. Ji-Wan Nam stood in front of a gathered assembly of scientists from 6 different species, human and alien, working side by side in the massive research complex on Luna. Her hands shook as she prepared to share what they had discovered. "We have done it," she said simply. "Sustainable faster-than-light travel. No hyperspace gates, no navigation networks, no council infrastructure needed at all." The room erupted. Scientists from every species talked over each other, asking questions, demanding to see the data. G1 pulled up the equations, the test results, the proof. It was real. A small collaborative team of human, Velran, Nethril, Quorum, and Thrin scientists had solved a problem that had stumped the galaxy for thousands of years. They had found a way to fold space itself, creating instant travel between any 2 points without needing the massive gate structures the Council controlled. Tormund stood beside her, his skin patterns showing pure joy. "This changes everything. The Council controls the galaxy because they control travel. Without that monopoly, they have nothing." "What do we do with it?" someone asked. Ji-Wan smiled. "We give it away. We publish everything, free, open, available to anyone who wants it. The Council will call that an act of war. Let them. This technology belongs to civilization, not to one government, not to one alliance. To everyone." Ambassador Hyun-Sik Park was in emergency session with Premier Yoonji Kang when the news reached them. He was 65 now, ready to retire, but events kept pulling him back into the center of history. "If we release this technology, the Council will have no choice but to respond with force," Yoonji said. "They cannot allow their power structure to collapse. If we do not release it, we are no better than them," Hyun-Sik replied. "We said we were different. We said we chose sharing over hoarding. Now we have to prove it. Even if it means war, even then." The technology was published that afternoon. Complete specifications, manufacturing instructions, mathematical proofs, everything needed to build fold space drives, posted openly on networks that reached across the galaxy. Within hours, the Council issued an official condemnation. Within days, riots broke out on Council worlds. Citizens of 17 species demanded to know why their governments had kept such technology from them, why they had been forced to pay massive fees to use Council hyperspace gates when better technology was possible. The Council tried to suppress the information, but it was too late. The data had spread too far too fast. Engineers on 100 worlds were already building prototypes. On the Council station, Ambassador Thalmec called an emergency war council. "Earth has gone too far. They are actively undermining galactic stability. We must respond." "With military force?" asked the Yothari delegate, Commander Vastek. His empathic species had always been uncomfortable with violence. "We have no choice. If we allow this to continue, the Council will cease to exist. Every species will build their own fold drives. Trade will become chaos. Order will collapse." Vastek looked around the chamber. He saw fear in every delegate. Fear of losing power. Fear of losing control. Fear of a universe where people were free to move and trade without permission. "Perhaps," Vastek said quietly, "order is not the same as justice. You dare question Council authority? I dare question whether authority built on monopoly and control is worth preserving." The other delegates turned on him. Vastek felt their anger, their fear, their hatred through his empathic senses. He had served the Council for 40 years, but in that moment he realized he could not serve them anymore. He stood and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, he heard Thalmec declaring him a traitor. 3 days later, Vastek and his ship arrived at Earth requesting asylum. The Yothari Empire had declared him an outcast. His crew had followed him willingly. 200 Yothari, all choosing principle over power. Captain Taeyang Lee met them personally at the orbital dock. "You know this means war now. The Council cannot ignore one of their own species defecting." "I know," Vastek replied, "but I could not stand by anymore. I watched you welcome the desperate. I watched you share instead of hoard. I watched you build something beautiful while we built walls. I want to be part of that." The Council strike team came a week later. Not a fleet this time. Something worse. Saboteurs. Agents trained in covert operations, sent to destroy Earth's infrastructure from within. They targeted the ARC stations. Bombs placed in critical systems. If they succeeded, billions would die in the vacuum of space. But the Council made one critical mistake. They assumed Earth's security would be as divided as their society. They assumed humans and aliens would not trust each other enough to work together effectively. They were wrong. A Velran engineer named Kelvan noticed unusual energy readings in Harmony Station's reactor. A human security officer named Taemin Kim saw someone where they should not be. A Nethril maintenance worker found a device that did not belong. Separately, the clues meant nothing. Together, they meant everything. Captain Taeyang Lee coordinated the response from his command center. All stations, this is Fleet Command. We have identified sabotage attempts. Teams are moving to intercept. Stay calm. We have this under control. The operation took 6 hours. 12 bombs found and disabled. 23 saboteurs captured. 0 casualties. The captured agents were tried publicly, fairly, given defense lawyers and proper hearings. They were convicted and imprisoned, not executed. Even in defending themselves, Earth and its allies refused to become what they opposed, but the attack had consequences. The galaxy had seen the Council send killers to murder billions of civilians. Species across Council space began questioning their governments. How could they support an organization that would do such things? On the colony world of Yothar Prime, protests erupted. Citizens demanded their government leave the Council. Similar movements began on other worlds. The Council's grip was slipping. Premier Yunji Kang saw the opportunity. She called Ambassador Hyun-Sik Park into her office. "It is time," she said. "Time to offer an alternative. The Open Alliance? Yes, a new interstellar coalition. Not based on control, based on cooperation. Any species that wants to join is welcome. Any species that wants to leave is free to go. No monopolies, no forced trade, just mutual benefit." Hyun-Sik felt a chill run down his spine. The Council will see this as a direct challenge. It is a direct challenge. We are challenging the idea that civilization requires authority. We are proving that cooperation is stronger than control. The Open Alliance was announced the next day. Earth, the Velran, the Nethril, the Quorum, the Thryn, and the Yothari. 6 species standing together, offering membership to anyone who shared their values. Within a month, 3 more species joined. Within 6 months, it was 12. The Council tried to hold their members in line through threats and sanctions, but they could not compete with freedom. Engineer Sujin Huang completed the first 5 ARC stations. Harmony 1 through 5, each housing 2 billion beings from dozens of species. She stood on Unity Station, the new capital of the Open Alliance, watching ships from 50 different worlds dock and trade and share. "We did it," she said to Rintal, who stood beside her. "We actually did it." "You did it," Rintal corrected. "Your species chose to help when no one else would. Everything that came after was because of that choice." "Our species helped," Sujin replied. "But you made it work. All of you. Every species that came here brought something unique. Something valuable. That is what makes this strong." Dr. Ji-won Nam was 73 years old when she finally retired. Her universal translation technology had spread across the galaxy. Species that had never been able to communicate could now understand each other perfectly. Ancient conflicts based on misunderstanding were being resolved. She gave one final lecture at the University of Luna, to an auditorium packed with students from 20 different species. "Science is not about control," she told them. "It is about understanding, and understanding is meant to be shared. When we hoard knowledge, we limit what we can become. When we share it, we discover possibilities we never imagined." The students gave her a standing ovation. 4 arms, 2 arms, tentacles, wings, all raised in respect. Bora and Lysara were 41 years old when they were elected co-directors of the Open Alliance Diplomatic Corps. They had spent their lives building bridges between species, and now they would do it officially. On their first day in office, they received a message from the Galactic Council. Or what was left of it. Only 5 species remained as members. The rest had either joined the Open Alliance or declared independence. Ambassador Thalmec himself requested a meeting. He looked old now, diminished. The insectoid delegate who had once ruled the galaxy now led a dying organization. "What do you want?" Bora asked him directly. "To surrender," Thalmec replied. The Corventi wished to join the Open Alliance. Lysara's skin patterns flickered with surprise. "After everything? After you tried to destroy us? You were right. We were wrong. Civilization is not about control. It is about cooperation. We see that now. We want to be part of what you built." Bora and Lysara looked at each other. They remembered the refugee ships. They remembered the bombs. They remembered all the death and suffering caused by the Council's choices. They also remembered what Rintal had said after the terrorist attack. The sanctions hit hard. Within days, Earth lost access to Council trade networks. Shipments of rare materials stopped. Technology licenses were revoked. Diplomatic channels went silent. The Galactic Council had spoken, and its message was clear: conform or suffer. Premier Yunji Kang stood in the unified government chambers, addressing representatives from every nation and colony. She looked older than her 56 years, worn down by the weight of leadership during impossible times. But her voice was steady. "The Council believes we will break," she said. "They believe we will choose comfort over principle. They are wrong. Today, I am issuing an open declaration to the entire galaxy. Earth and the Velrin will not bend. We will not abandon our partnership, and we will not close our doors to anyone the Council rejects." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. One representative stood up. "Premier, are you saying we will accept more refugees?" "I am saying exactly that. If there are species out there suffering, species the Council has turned away, they are welcome here. We will be the haven, not just for the Velrin but for anyone who needs us." The vote was closer this time. Earth's economy was straining. Resources were tight. People were tired. But the measure passed, barely, by 8 votes. Within a week, the first responses came. 3 refugee groups contacted Earth's delegation. The Nethril, an aquatic species whose ocean world was dying from pollution the Council refused to help clean. The Quorum, crystalline beings whose home asteroid was breaking apart. The Thrin, insectoid people who had been enslaved by a Council member species and had escaped. All 3 had been denied asylum by the Council. All 3 were desperate. All 3 were now coming to Earth. Ambassador Hyun-Sik Park worked around the clock, coordinating arrivals, negotiating terms, explaining to nervous Earth citizens why this was necessary. He was 62 now, and he should have retired years ago. But he could not walk away. Not when there was still work to do. "How many this time?" Rintal asked him one night as they reviewed arrival schedules. 800 million Nethril, 500 million Quorum, 2 billion Thrin. Earth cannot support that many, not without help. Then we will build the help. We have no choice. These people have nowhere else to go. On Mars, engineer Su Jin Huang was solving that exact problem. She was 39, brilliant and completely obsessed with her work. She barely slept. She barely ate. All she cared about was her project, the ARC stations, massive orbital habitats designed to house billions, each one a self-contained ecosystem, able to support multiple species with completely different biology. They were the most ambitious construction project in human history. "We need more materials," she told her construction team. "We need metals, polymers, everything." "The Council trade embargo cut off our suppliers," her assistant reminded her. "Then we mine asteroids. We harvest comets. We take what we need from the solar system itself." No one can embargo rocks, she was right. Within months, mining operations exploded across the asteroid belt. Velrin engineering made it possible to build faster than ever before. Soon, materials flowed into the construction sites at unprecedented rates. The first ARC station, Harmony 1, began taking shape in Earth orbit. It was beautiful in a utilitarian way. A massive ring 3 kilometers in diameter. Sections designed for different atmospheres, different gravities, different life support systems. One station could house 500 million beings from a dozen different species. Dr. Ji-Won Nam was working on a different kind of breakthrough. Her neural interface research had expanded into something bigger. Universal translation, not just for speech but for concepts, for emotions, for thoughts themselves. "The problem with language," she explained to a lecture hall full of students, "both human and Velrin, is that words do not always mean the same thing. Context gets lost, emotion gets lost. But if we can interface directly with neural patterns, we can share meaning itself," she demonstrated with a prototype. A human volunteer thought about the concept of home. The device translated that thought into patterns that a Velrin volunteer could understand. Not the word home, but the feeling of it. The safety, the belonging. The warmth, both volunteers cried. Understanding without words was more powerful than either had imagined. "This changes everything," Tormund said after the demonstration. "This technology would let any species understand any other species perfectly." "Yes," Ji-Won agreed. which is why we are publishing it openly, free for anyone to use. The Council will hate that. I am counting on it. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Thalmec was indeed hating it. Reports kept coming in about Earth's activities. New technologies. New alliances. New refugees arriving constantly. It was chaos. It was disorder. It was everything the Council was supposed to prevent. We need to take stronger action, he told the assembled delegates. Economic sanctions are not enough. We need to enforce order. What are you suggesting? Asked the Threxian delegate. A blockade. We position Council warships around Earth's system. Nothing goes in or out without our approval. We force them to comply. Several delegates objected immediately. That is an act of war. It is a peacekeeping operation. We are maintaining stability. The debate raged for hours. Finally, a compromise was reached. Not a full blockade, but a protective cordon. Council warships would monitor Earth's system to ensure the refugees were not being exploited. That was the official reason. Everyone knew the truth. It was intimidation. The Council warship Sovereign Justice arrived at Earth's system 3 weeks later. It was massive, bristling with weapons, a demonstration of power meant to remind Earth of its place in the galactic order. Captain Taeyang Li was waiting for them. He commanded Earth's defense fleet now, a mix of human and Velran ships that had been built in the joint shipyards. His fleet was smaller than the Sovereign Justice, much smaller, but he positioned them directly in the warship's path anyway. Sovereign Justice, this is Captain Li of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are entering sovereign territory without permission. Please state your intentions. The Council ship's commander responded with barely concealed contempt. We are here on Council authority. Move aside. With respect, the Council has no authority here. You are welcome to request diplomatic access through proper channels, but you will not enter our system uninvited. You cannot stop us, probably not, but we will try. And everyone in the galaxy will watch us die defending our home from the mighty Galactic Council. Is that the image you want to project? There was a long silence. The standoff stretched for hours. Both fleets held position. Weapons powered but not targeting. The galaxy watched through news feeds and sensor reports. Everyone waited to see who would blink first. Then Rintal's voice came over the open channel. Sovereign Justice, this is Commander Rintal of the Velran Expeditionary Fleet. I speak for 3 billion Velran citizens of Earth. We are here by choice. We are not being exploited. We are not prisoners. We are home. And we will defend that home. More voices joined in. Nethril representatives, Quorum spokespeople, Thrin leaders, all saying the same thing. All standing together. The Sovereign Justice backed down. They claimed it was a tactical repositioning. Everyone knew it was a retreat. Taeyang let out a breath he had been holding for hours. His hands were shaking. They had been seconds away from war. Seconds from disaster. We were lucky, he told Rintal later. No, the Velran commander replied. We were united. That is not luck. That is choice. But the incident changed things. The Council could not ignore Earth anymore. They could not pretend this was temporary. Earth and its refugee allies were becoming a real power in the galaxy. In a secret laboratory deep beneath the Martian surface, Velran scientists were working on their most closely guarded project. Rintal visited them personally to check on progress. Show me, he commanded. The lead scientist activated a holographic display. We have successfully cracked the mathematics of fold space travel. Not hyperspace like the Council uses. Something better, faster, more efficient. No need for their jump gates or their navigation networks. Rintal's skin patterns blazed with colors that meant triumph. How long until we can build it? 6 months for a prototype. A year for production models, do it. But tell no one. Not even the humans, not yet. This is our insurance policy. If the Council pushes us too far, this is how we survive. Above Mars, construction on the Ark stations continued. Ships from a dozen refugee species worked alongside humans and Velran. They were building something new. Not human. Not Velran. Not any single species. Something that belonged to all of them. Bora and Lysara stood on an observation deck watching the construction. They were 21 now. Leaders in the integration movement, symbols of what cooperation looked like. Do you think this will work? Boa asked. All these different species living together? Lysara's skin flickered thoughtfully. It has to work. Because the alternative is going back to a galaxy where people are turned away to die. I will do anything to prevent that, even fight. Even that neither of them wanted war. But both of them understood that peace sometimes required the willingness to defend it. Across the galaxy, in the shadows of Council space, something else was happening. Ships were disappearing from Council worlds. Not many, just a few at a time. Refugees who could afford passage. Dissidents who disagreed with Council policies. Artists who wanted freedom. 2 years had changed everything. The sprawling settlement of New Velrin stretched across the Martian plains, its buildings mixing human architecture with Velrin design. Dome structures glowed with bioluminescent panels, a gift from Velrin engineers, who had learned to adapt their technology to human power systems. In return, human architects had shown the Velrin how to build on a dead world and make it feel alive. Ambassador Hyunsik Park was no longer just Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. He had become something more, an advocate, a bridge builder, a thorn in the Council's side. He stood in the Council chamber once again, but this time with Rintal beside him. The Velrin commander had been granted honorary status as Earth's co-delegate. The other Council members had protested, but they could not stop it. Earth was a sovereign member, and they could bring whoever they wanted. The joint human-Velrin shipyards are now operational, Hyunsik announced. We are offering trade agreements to any species interested in our new ship designs. The designs appeared on the central hologram, sleek vessels that combined human engineering with Velrin metallurgy. Ships that were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything either species could build alone. Ambassador Thalmek leaned forward. You are selling these? No, Rintal said, his skin patterns bright with satisfaction. We are trading them, for fair prices, for mutual benefit, the way civilization should work. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Galactic Council controlled most advanced technology through carefully managed licenses and fees. The idea of Earth and the Velrin simply sharing their innovations was dangerous. It disrupted the entire system. The Council will need to review these designs, Thalmek said, to ensure they meet safety standards. Of course, Hyunsik replied with a smile that did not reach his eyes. We will send you the technical specifications. I am sure your review will be thorough and fair. Everyone in the room understood the real message. The Council could review all they wanted. Earth and the Velrin were moving forward regardless. Back on Earth, Dr. Ji-Won Nam was having a breakthrough of a different kind. Her laboratory was packed with equipment, half of it human-made, half Velrin. She had stopped thinking of them as separate technologies. They were just tools now, different pieces of the same puzzle. Run the test again, she told her assistant, a young Velrin named Tormin. Tormin activated the neural interface. A human volunteer wearing the device thought about moving his prosthetic arm. The arm moved instantly, smoothly, naturally, better than any purely human prosthetic had ever moved. It works, Tormin said, his skin glowing with excitement. The bioelectric enhancement gives perfect neural response, no lag, no signal loss. Ji-Won allowed herself a rare smile. This is going to change everything. Medicine, robotics, space exploration, everything. Will you publish the research? Of course. We share everything. That is the whole point. Tormin's patterns shifted to something thoughtful. The Council would keep this secret. They would patent it and sell licenses for profit. The Council is not us. We do things differently here. On Mars, Captain Tae-Yang Lee was preparing for something unprecedented. A joint human-Velrin crew was about to launch on the first deep space exploration mission beyond Council territory. The ship was called the Pioneer, built in the new shipyards, crewed by both species working as one. Rintal had insisted on co-commanding the mission with Tae-Yang. The human captain had agreed without hesitation. They had proven themselves as partners many times over. All crew report ready, the navigation officer announced. She was Velrin. Her backup was human. That was how every station was staffed now. Mixed crews, mixed minds, mixed possibilities. Take us out, Tae-Yang ordered. The Pioneer launched from Mars orbit, its engines burning brighter than anything the Council had. It was heading toward unexplored systems, looking for new worlds, new resources, new opportunities for their combined civilization. As the ship disappeared into the darkness, something else was happening on Earth. Something that would change everything again. Borachoy and Lysara stood in front of a crowd of reporters holding hands. They were 19 now, no longer children. They had grown up together through the integration, had become symbols of what cooperation looked like. "We are announcing the formation of the First Contact Youth Program," Bora said, reading from a prepared statement but injecting her own personality into it. "This is for young humans and Velrin to work together, learn together, and build the future together. Our parents' generation made the choice to help each other," Lysara added, her translator giving her words that did not quite capture the emotions in her skin patterns. "Our generation will make that choice mean something." The program launched with 5,000 volunteers. Within a month, there were 50,000, young people from both species working on projects that ranged from art to science to engineering. They did not care about the old divisions. They only saw possibilities. But not everyone was happy about the integration. In the shadows, groups of human extremists were planning something terrible. They saw the Velrin as invaders. They saw Earth's resources being stolen by aliens. They saw their world changing and they wanted to stop it. The bomb went off in a Velrin residential zone in New Delhi. 50 Velrin families lived there, working as engineers and teachers and artists. The explosion killed 23 Velrin and 11 humans who happened to be visiting. The world held its breath, waiting to see what would happen. Would this be the breaking point? Would the Velrin demand justice? Would there be retaliation? Rintal addressed both species that night. He stood in front of the cameras with Hyunsik Park beside him. His skin patterns were slow and dim, showing grief that needed no translation. "Today, terrorists killed our people," Rintal said. "They killed humans too. They killed neighbors and friends. They killed the future we are building together, and I will tell you what we will do about it." He paused. The galaxy watched. "We will forgive, not because what they did is acceptable, not because we do not hurt, but because revenge only creates more death, because hatred only creates more hatred, because the humans who did this do not represent humanity, any more than the worst of my people represented the Velrin. We will forgive, and we will keep building. That is the only way forward." The speech went viral across human and Velrin networks. The extremists had expected anger. They had expected division. Instead, they got forgiveness, and it shamed them more than any punishment could. Most of them turned themselves in within days. But while Earth dealt with internal problems, the Galactic Council was making plans of its own. Ambassador Thalmec called an emergency session. All delegates attended except Earth. "The Human-Velrin alliance is becoming a threat," Thalmec said. "Their technology is advancing too quickly. Their influence is spreading. If we do not act now, they will destabilize the entire council structure." "What do you propose?" asked the Threxian delegate. "Economic sanctions. Complete trade embargo. We cut them off from council networks, council resources, council markets. We isolate them until they agree to council oversight of their technology." "Is that not exactly what drove them to work together in the first place?" asked a junior delegate from the Yothari Empire. Thalmec's mandibles clicked with irritation. "Do you have a better suggestion?" "Perhaps we could learn from them instead of punishing them." "That is not how the council operates. We maintain order through control. Always have, always will. All in favor of sanctions?" The vote was unanimous. Only the Yothari delegate abstained, and his vote did not count. When Hyunsik Park received the news, he was not surprised. He had been expecting this. "They are scared," he told Premier Yunji Kang over a secure channel. "They see us building something new, and they do not like it." "Can we survive sanctions?" Yunji asked. "We will have to. We have Velrin resources now. We have joint technology. We have something they do not have." "What is that?" "Purpose. They maintain power. We build futures. That is the difference." Dr. Jiwon Nam was less philosophical about it. When she heard about the sanctions, She threw a coffee cup across her lab. Tormin watched with what might have been amusement. I was supposed to present my neural interface research to the Corventhi Medical Academy next month, she said. This could have helped millions of people across the galaxy. Now they will never see it. Then we will share it another way, Tormin suggested. There are other species who talk to us in secret. Not everyone agrees with the council. We can reach them directly. Jiwan stopped mid-rant. That is actually brilliant. We do not need the council's approval to share research. We just publish it openly. Anyone can access it. The council will call that reckless. Let them. We are not playing by their rules anymore. That night, the first human Velrin wedding took place in Seoul. It was more symbolic than anything. The biology did not work for reproduction, but the emotion did. Two people from different worlds choosing to build a life together. The ceremony was broadcast across both civilizations. Bora and Lysara attended together, watching their friend marry her Velrin partner. The sight of them standing at the altar, 2 arms and 4, made something clear to everyone watching. This was not temporary. This was not an experiment. This was permanent. Humanity and the Velrin were not just allies anymore. They were becoming one civilization. 6 months had passed since Premier Yoonji Kang made the announcement that changed everything. Earth's Unified Assembly had voted, though barely. The decision to accept all 3 billion Velrin refugees passed by only 12 votes. Half the planet celebrated. The other half protested. Captain Tae-Yang Lee stood in the command center of Settlement Station Alpha, watching the Velrin fleet approach through the massive windows. He had been a military logistics coordinator for 15 years, but nothing in his training prepared him for this. 3,000 ships, each one carrying 1 million desperate souls, filling the space around Earth like a slow-moving storm. First wave entering lunar orbit, reported his second officer. Wave 2 holding position at Mars, Wave 3 maintaining distance at the asteroid belt. Tae-Yang nodded. They had practiced this 100 times in simulations, but reality was different. Reality had weight. Reality had 3 billion faces looking at him with hope. Begin landing operations. Group Alpha to designated zones in Australia. Group Beta to Kazakhstan. Group Gamma to floating platforms in the Pacific. Down on Earth in a small laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Ji-Won-Nam was having a crisis of her own. The young xenobiologist had been studying Velrin physiology for months, trying to understand their basic needs. She was brilliant with alien biology, but terrible with people. Now she had to explain her findings to a room full of government officials who did not understand science and did not want to hear problems. The Velrin cannot eat most Earth food, she said, pulling up diagrams on the screen. Their digestive system processes nutrients differently. We need to either modify their food or modify Earth crops. Both options take time. How much time? Asked a representative from the Agriculture Ministry. Years, maybe decades to do it properly. We do not have years, Doctor. Ji-Won pushed her glasses up. She hated these meetings. Then we do it improperly. We create supplement paste. It tastes terrible, but it keeps them alive while we work on better solutions. Supplement paste for 3 billion individuals? I did not say it would be easy. I said it was possible. In orbit, the first landing ships were descending. Captain Tae-Yang monitored each one personally. The Velrin ships were enormous, built for multiple generations to live and die aboard. They were also falling apart. 6 months of desperate flight had pushed their systems beyond breaking. Sir, we have a problem. His communications officer called out. Generation ship Vel 277 is reporting critical life support failure. They are losing atmosphere. Tae-Yang's blood went cold. How many aboard? 400,000. Get rescue ships there now. I do not care what it takes. Move everything we have in that direction. The next 6 hours were chaos. Human rescue ships swarmed the failing Velrin vessel, docking at every port, cutting through hull sections, pulling out Velrin families by the hundreds. But it was not enough. When the ship's core finally gave out, 200,000 Velrin were still inside. Tae-Yang watched the ship go dark on his screens. 200,000 lives gone. Because they could not move fast enough. Because they did not have enough ships. Because even their best effort was not good enough. He wanted to scream. He wanted to break something. Instead, he just stood there watching the numbers on his screen stop counting. Rintal came to see him that night. The Velrun commander looked older somehow, his bioluminescent patterns dim and slow. "You saved 200,000 of my people today," Riental said. "I lost 200,000, Taeyang replied. "No, we lost them. They were dying the moment our suns collapsed. You gave half of them life. That is more than anyone else in this galaxy would have done." Taeyang turned to look at the alien commander. "Does that make it hurt less?" "No, but it makes it meaningful." Down on Earth, integration was proving harder than anyone expected. In Seoul, a 16-year-old girl named Bo-Ra Choi was learning this firsthand. Her school had accepted 50 Velrun students as part of an exchange program. Most of the human students stayed away from them. Some were scared. Some were angry their parents had to ration food for aliens. Some just did not know what to say. Bo-Ra did not care about any of that. She'd always been the weird kid anyway. She walked right up to a Velrun girl sitting alone in the cafeteria. "You look miserable," Bo-Ra said. "I am miserable too. Want to be miserable together?" The Velrun girl's translator took a moment to process that. Her name was Lisara, daughter of Commander Riental. She had been a student on the fleet, learning navigation and engineering. Now she was on an alien world, breathing air that felt too thick, eating food that tasted like chemicals, surrounded by beings who had only 2 arms and no bioluminescence. "Why would you want to sit with me?" Lisara asked. "Because you are new and interesting and everyone else here is boring. Also, you are the fleet commander's daughter." "That is cool." Lisara's skin flickered with colors Bo-Ra did not understand yet. "My father says I should make friends with humans. He says our species need to learn from each other." "Smart dad." "My mom says the same thing." "Come on. I will show you the good hiding spots where teachers cannot find us." In the following weeks, protests erupted across Earth. In London, 50,000 people marched against the refugee acceptance. In Mumbai, counter-protesters marched in support. In São Paulo, someone bombed a Velrun housing complex. 3 families died. Premier Eun Kang addressed the world that night. She looked exhausted. The job was aging her rapidly. "I understand your anger," she said. "I understand your fear. Resources are tight. Change is hard. But I ask you to remember that we chose this. We chose to help. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. And yes, there will be sacrifices. There will be hard times. But there will also be possibilities we never imagined." In his laboratory on Mars, Dr. Ji-won Nam was discovering one of those possibilities. She had been studying Velrun biology around the clock, barely sleeping, living on coffee and determination. Then she noticed something strange. The Velrun had a bioelectric field that human instruments could barely detect. It was how they communicated through their skin patterns. She ran tests. Then more tests. Then she called Ambassador Hyun-sik Park at 3 in the morning. "I found something," she said, her voice shaking with excitement. "The Velrun bioelectric field can interface with human neural tissue." "Do you understand what this means?" "Pretend I am not a scientist and explain it to me," Hyun-sik said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "It means we can build better neural interfaces, better prosthetics, maybe even computer systems that read thoughts. The Velrun have something we do not, and we can learn from it. This is not just charity. This is partnership," Hyun-sik smiled. "Can you present this to the Council?" "The Galactic Council?" "Yes. I want to show them what they are missing." 2 months later, Dr. Ji-won Nam stood in the same chamber where the Velrun had been rejected. She showed her research. She showed the prototype interfaces. She showed what humans and Velrun could build together. The council delegates watched in silence. Ambassador Thalmek of the Corventi spoke first. "You are combining your technology with theirs." "Yes," Ji-won said. "Why?" "Because together we are stronger than apart." "Is that not the point of civilization?" No one answered. Back on Earth, Lisara and Bo-Ra were sitting on the roof of their school watching the sunset. It looked wrong to Lisara. 1 sun instead of 2. Orange and red instead of blue and violet. But it was beautiful in its own way. "Do you miss home?" Bo-Ra asked. "Every moment," Lisara said. "But home is gone. This is where I live now. I have to make it home somehow. We will help. Humans are good at making homes in weird places. We have been doing it forever." Above them, ships moved across the sky. Velrun ships and human ships working together. Building orbital stations. Establishing colonies on Mars, creating something new. Captain Taeyang Lee watched the same sky from his command center. The crisis was not over. It would never really be over. There would always be more problems, more challenges, more disasters they had to prevent. But today, everyone who was supposed to land had landed safely. Today, no ships failed. Today was a good day. Rintal stood beside him. The Velrun commander had become a friend over these months. They had worked together, struggled together, saved lives together. My people are calling Earth the Haven, Rintal said, the place that took us in when no one else would. It is just Earth, Taeyang replied. No, it is more than that now. It is proof that kindness exists in this universe. It is proof that some species care about more than profit and power. Taeyang thought about the 200,000 they lost. He thought about the protests and the bombings and the endless struggle. He thought about whether this was all worth it. Then he looked at the ships in the sky and decided that yes, it was. The emergency lights bathed the Galactic Council chamber in red as Ambassador Hyunsik Park watched history unfold before him. He had been Earth's representative for 5 years now, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The massive circular room housed delegates from 17 different species, each more ancient and powerful than humanity. Earth was the newest member, barely tolerated, often ignored. Today was different. Today, everyone was watching. The holographic display showed the Velrun home system collapsing. Twin suns, stable for billions of years, had suddenly spiraled into each other, forming a black hole that swallowed everything. 3 billion Velrun had escaped in a desperate exodus, their generation ships fleeing into the void. Now they drifted in neutral space, running out of food, water, and hope. Rintal stood at the center of the chamber. The Velrun commander's 4 arms hung at his sides, his bioluminescent skin flickering with patterns that Hyunsik had learned meant desperation. Rintal was begging, a proud species reduced to asking for mercy from civilizations that had always looked down on them. We ask for asylum, Rintal said, his voice translator making his words sound flat and emotionless, though his skin patterns told a different story. We have nowhere else to go. Our home is gone. Our people are dying. We need help. Hyunsik leaned forward in his seat. Surely someone would help. These were advanced civilizations. They had resources. They had empty planets. They had the technology to save 3 billion lives without even noticing the cost. The Corventhi delegate spoke first. Thalmec's insectoid features remained impassive as he delivered his verdict. The Corventhi collective sympathizes with your plight. However, we cannot accept refugees at this time. Our economic models show that such an influx would destabilize our resource distribution. We vote no. Hyunsik felt his stomach drop. One by one, the other delegates spoke. The Threxian Empire cited security concerns. The Malor Federation mentioned cultural incompatibility. The Quesh Alliance pointed to overpopulation on their worlds. The excuses varied, but the answer was always the same. Rintal's skin patterns grew dimmer with each rejection. His people were watching this broadcast. 3 billion Velrun were hearing their death sentence delivered in polite bureaucratic language. When the last vote came in, the result was unanimous. 17 species had refused. The Galactic Council offered its thoughts and sympathies, but nothing more. Rintal stood silent for a long moment, then bowed his head and left the chamber. Hyunsik sat frozen in his seat. He thought about his grandfather who had fled war as a child. He thought about every refugee crisis in human history, every moment when people had been turned away from safety. He thought about what it meant to be human, to remember suffering, to know what it felt like to have nowhere to go. He pressed the communication button on his desk. Earth Unified Government, this is Ambassador Park. Priority 1 communication. I need to speak with Premier Kang immediately. The other delegates were filing out of the chamber, already moving on to other business. The Velrun crisis was over for them. They had voted. They had done their duty. Now it was someone else's problem. Except there was no one else. Hyunsik made his way through the station's corridors to his private office. The walls were lined with images of Earth, reminders of home. Seoul at night, the light stretching to the horizon. The Amazon rainforest green and alive. The Sahara vast and golden. Antarctica white and pristine. Earth was beautiful. Earth was also crowded, still recovering from climate wars, still building its first real colonies on Mars and Luna. Earth had no business taking in 3 billion refugees. The communication panel lit up. Premier Eunji Kang appeared on the screen. She was in her office in Geneva, and it must have been late there because she looked tired, but her eyes were sharp and focused. I watched the session, she said before Hyunsik could speak. I saw what happened. premiere, they turned them away. All of them. 3 billion people are going to die out there and no one will help. Yoonji was quiet for a moment. Hyunsik could see her thinking, weighing options, calculating costs. She had not become Earth's leader by being impulsive, but she had also not become leader by being cruel. How long do they have? She asked. Months, maybe a year if they ration everything. But their ships are falling apart. They were never meant for permanent habitation. They were just trying to get far enough away from the black hole. And if we help them? Hyunsik pulled up the data he had been compiling. It would be the largest humanitarian effort in human history. We would need to mobilize every resource. Mars, Luna, Earth orbit, possibly even Earth itself. We are talking about housing, feeding, and integrating 3 billion individuals from a completely different biology. The cost would be enormous, but possible? Possible, yes, barely. It would require sacrifices, rationing, massive construction projects. And the Council would not approve. They would probably sanction us. Cut off trade. Isolate us further than we already are. Yoonji nodded slowly. And if we do nothing? Hyunsik did not answer. They both knew what would happen. Ambassador Park, Yoonji said, I'm going to call an emergency session of the Unified Assembly, but I want you to do something for me first. What do you need? Send a message to Commander Rintal. Tell him Earth would like to discuss asylum arrangements. Tell him to bring his fleet to our system. Tell him that humanity remembers what it is like to need help. Hyunsik felt something tight in his chest loosen. You are going to do this. I am going to try. The Assembly might vote me down. The people might protest. But we have to try. Because if we do not, if we just watch them die when we could have helped, then what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have any of this? She gestured at her office at Earth Beyond. We built all of this because people helped each other. Because when things got bad, someone reached out a hand. The Council will be furious. Let them be furious. They just condemned 3 billion people to death. I do not care what they think. Hyunsik smiled for the first time since the session. I will send the message. He composed the transmission carefully. It was not a formal diplomatic document. It was simpler than that. An invitation. A promise. A hand reaching across the darkness. When he sent it, he included his own message at the end. The universe turned you away. Humanity will not. The response came 3 hours later. Rintal's face appeared on the screen, his skin patterns bright with colors Hyunsik had never seen before. The translator gave the words, but Hyunsik understood the meaning behind them. We are coming, Rintal said. Thank you. Hyunsik watched the Velran fleet change course on his monitors. 3,000 generation ships carrying 3 billion lives turning toward Earth. Toward hope. The galaxy would remember this moment. The newest species, the weakest member of the Council, had just done what no one else would. Humanity had opened its arms.